So on our journey to oneness, this morning we're talking about Celebrate Me Home. Do you know that song? Kenny Loggins' song, a holiday song. Love that song. Love that song. But the song is not talking about a place really of Christmas. Celebrate Me Home. It's not just a place. It's a state of mind, and it's home in the heart. It's about a man that goes home, and he's so filled with love and caring. He's so filled with just what you were talking about this morning and Gretchen was singing about, just the love and oneness, wholeness, unity, peace. And then he has to go back home to his place. And he says to the people there, please give me a number, another song that I can carry with me, that I'll remember. So when I leave and I get to that place where I feel so alone and I start to forget, that I can sing that song in my heart and I can remember. I can remember that love transcends time and space, and that I can feel your presence everywhere. So today we're talking about celebrating ourselves home. What are we going to do? How do we take that journey to find that thing that will give us the knowing and remembering that we are one? Well, if you ask Joseph Campbell, he would say it's the hero's journey. Because throughout ages, throughout all the world, throughout ancient times, the fables and stories have told of the hero's journey that take us home to remember who we are. Now, Campbell, he's known for 3 little words: follow your bliss. But that doesn't mean consume all your pleasures. It means follow what makes life meaningful to you. Follow what's in your heart that you know is right and good and true. Well, we lost a true hero this week. Seems like a lot of people right now are making their transition to that other side to do their important work in a grander essence. John Glenn was a true all-American hero, and he passed this week. He followed his bliss. He led that hero's journey. He truly made great changes in the world, but not just on magnificent levels, which he did, but also on the little levels. He served 4 terms as a U.S. state senator, and he was known for his kindness, his generosity, his humor, and his love of connecting with people, especially children. He was humble. He became senator after he had truly become a hero. From being the first person, it was 1962, the first person to orbit the Earth in a spacecraft. And he said one of the thoughts when he was in that spacecraft is, he said, one of those things I couldn't stop thinking is, this rocket that I'm in is totally made from the people that had the lowest bid. Thank goodness he had a spiritual side too. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that. But he orbited the Earth at a very important time and truly became an all-American hero and showed us what we could do. But then that wasn't enough. Of course, he went on to do his work in government and really, he was loved. But at age 77, he took a 9-day, another space trip, and he orbited the Earth doing research for 9 days and became the oldest person at age 77, the oldest astronaut. He believed that life was for living. He believed we are here to fully express our life. He lived the hero's journey. He found his purpose and his passion young, and he stuck to it. But today I want to talk about, how do we find that bliss within us? How do we get on that hero's journey so we know that our life is on purpose and it's meaningful? And because we're here, our journey hasn't stopped. Because this life is evolutionary. I talked last week about one of my favorite mystics, Rumi, 13th century poet, who said, this life, this journey we're on is a journey of evolution. He was an evolutionary thinker. And he said our first step is we have to devolve from spirit. We have to separate from the oneness of life to learn about ourselves, to learn. And so we devolve, and then we turn around, we journey away from God, and then we have that awakening, and we remember there's something more going on. And then we have to journey back to God until we return to that oneness, and it's the journey in God. Campbell said this hero's journey is about separation, initiation, and return. Very similar. And we all love stories. Is there anybody here that doesn't love stories? We love stories. And I'm just going to lay it out on the table. This Christmas season, I've been watching a lot of those syrupy Hallmark Christmas movies. I said I'd never do it. But I found this past year was a little tough with all the blame, name dropping, all the disruption. And this feels so good because it is a hero's journey where people forget who they are, right? And then they do whatever they can with unseen help to remember who they are. And it always has a happy ending. They always return home as better versions of themselves. And isn't that what we want to be, a better version of ourselves? So if that's where you are, turn it on. Go for it. Ernest Holmes said he believes one of the greatest stories ever told is the parable of the Prodigal Son. He said it truly teaches the greatest spiritual lesson. Jesus loved to teach in parables and short little stories because they're layered, and you could get, wherever you were in your evolving consciousness, you could get a new understanding of the story. And so the story of the Prodigal Son tells us that there is a reciprocal action in this universe, that there's a direct connection between the universal mind and the individual mind. There is a reciprocal action. And when we turn to Spirit, Spirit turns to us and gives of itself. We need to do our part. And so he also, in this story, talks about the two sons, which tells us that as humans, we have free choice. We can decide who we want to be and how we want to show up in life. We can be given the same situation and we still have a choice how we're going to deal with that. Well, the one son decided that he was going to take his total inheritance, asked his pop. Pop said yes. He took it, and he went off and lived an extravagant life, squandered all his means, and ended up feeding the swine, the pigs. And he got so low that he was so hungry, he was going to eat what he was feeding the pigs. We have that choice if we want to do it. It's up to us. God, Spirit, life never argues with us. Darn it. We can make those stupid, ridiculous choices, and there's that cause and effect universe, that reciprocal universe, and we can learn the hard way. But the thing is, he woke up. He remembered the awakening. Here he was. He remembered where he came from. He came from an abundant universe, and he returned home. And there's the other important lesson in that story. He remembered who he was. And God never condemns or criticizes. He went home. His father in the parable, which represents universal spirit, saw him from afar, was excited, felt compassion, and welcomed him with open arms. Open arms. There we go again, the reciprocal nature. When we turn to Spirit, it's always there for us. And that's a beautiful part of the story. Finding, remembering, and remember that Spirit life never condemns. It's always there for us. And not only that, Another message in this story is, at that time the father said, give him the best robe, give him the ring. Well, if you think, the best robe was made from a single piece of cloth with no seams. It represented unity, as did the ring. The son, the youngest son, was coming back to his unity with life. Now, did the son that stayed at home, did he make the right choices? Well, how did he end up in the story? He was resentful and mad, and he blamed his father for being so easy on the younger son. But he just stayed at home and didn't do his work. He stayed in his little comfort zone. We have to do our learning in whatever way is best for us. You know, waking up to our true self is really about discovering there's something greater than we are. It's in us. There's always something greater about us. And we need to be learning and growing. And stories tell us that we can forget who we are, but there's always something greater that wants to live through us. You think of the oldest stories like the Eliot and the Odyssey. You think of Disney movies like The Lion King or Cinderella fairy tales. There's all stories that go from getting lost to getting found to returning home. There is a greater expression in all of us right now because we're still here. We're still in this human form, this vehicle, which means there's something more that wants to express through us. And I want us today to wake up and say, okay, I'm willing to do what needs to be done on that journey of awakening. There's an ancient fable in India about the baby tiger and the goats. And a mother tiger that's starving out in the jungle sees this delicious flock of goats, and she jumps on them with all her strength and all her vigor, and she ends up having the baby right then, but it also costs her life. Well, of course the goats scatter, and soon they return and they find this little baby tiger all snuggled up against its mother who's passed. So they adopt this little tiger. But they only know goat mentality. Do you get that? So what do they teach the tiger to be? A goat, because they don't know any different. They teach the tiger to bleat. Bah, bah. Is that what goats do? I don't know. Maybe that's what lambs do. But anyway, they're just for the story's sake. And they teach it to eat grass, but grass isn't very nourishing to a tiger. So the tiger grows up as a very weak and diminished and miserable version of itself because it isn't getting what it needs. It's getting attention, it's getting some love, but it's not getting what it needs to grow into its full potential. But one day, of course, this is a story. The male tiger comes, a big male tiger comes and sees this delicious flock of goats and jumps and pounces on the flock. The goats scatter, but the little tiger doesn't because he's not afraid. And he looks up at the big tiger and goes, bah, whatever they do. And the tiger was disgusted. This big old male tiger goes, who are you? And all the little tiger could do was bleat and nibble on grass. Too much for the big tiger. Grabbed that little tiger, took him to a pond, and showed him his reflection for the very first time. And he said, you are not a goat. You are a tiger like me. You've got to start living like it. Do you ever feel like life is doing that to you? So he picked him up again, dragged him to his den, and decided he was going to feed him some meat. And the little tiger went, no, I'm a vegetarian. That doesn't work for me. He wasn't a vegetarian. He didn't know any differently. But the big tiger did, and knew once he got a taste of who he really was, things would be very different. So he shoved a piece of big meat in that little tiger's body, and ooh, but then he got it. Then he started understanding. I get it. I know. It feels good. And the big tiger said, and so now you go out and start feeding yourself. You get what you need. Now you've had that taste of who you really are. And the journey continued. I'm asking us, where inside of us is our ego keeping us keeping a cap on us, keeping us in the comfort zone so we're not stretching and growing and becoming. Where are we in that little comfort zone? Where are we called to take a look in the mirror and go, I'm something more than my critical eyes are seeing. There's something greater. Because in this hero's journey, the main thing we do, the greatest thing is about finding ourselves. Finding ourselves. And if we're going to be finding ourselves, we've got to realize right this minute and every moment. This is a statement we always say here. There's a power greater than we are. Right here. There's a power greater than we are that we're part of, that we can use always, every moment, but we have to turn to it. We have to be using it. We can be turning away, evolving, being separate from our good. Remember, the two sons, we have choice. We get to decide if that's what we want to do. Let me tell you what John Glenn said. He finished that statement. Here he was in the rocket, very worried about. He said, as I hurled through space, one thought kept crossing my mind. Every part of this rocket was supplied by the lowest bidder. But then he remembered what he had told a group of students not too long before. He said, we are placed here with certain talents and abilities. It is up to each of us to use those talents and capabilities as best you can. In order to do that, if you do that, I think there is a power greater than any of us. If you do that, I think there is a power greater than any of us that will place the opportunities in our way. And if we use our talents properly, we will be living the kind of life we should. Meaning he knew that he had the capabilities to continue in that orbit and continue doing his part. He also added, I pray every day, and I think everyone should, because he knew we had to connect with that power greater than we are, and it came out successfully. You see, we have to see with different eyes. We have to see our whole life with different eyes if we're going to have that attitude that's going to take us in new orbits and new experiences. T.S. Eliot, those of you that come here a lot know that I love Rumi, that's Sufi mystic Rumi and his poetry now. In college, T.S. Eliot was my favorite. And he said, we shall not cease from exploration. So he was another evolutionary thinker. We will not cease from exploration. That's what we're here to do. And at the end of all our exploring will be to arrive where we first started and know the place for the very first time. Why is that so important? Why is it so important that we go home? Isn't just it important that we learn and keep going and doing our thing? We have to go home because home is where our real work begins. It's not enough just to find the light within ourselves and love it. It's not enough to do that. When we get home, we have to start sharing that light, being that light. Ernest Holmes said, teach, practice, practice, teach. That's all we have. That's all we are. That's all we ever should do. How do we expect this world to be a better, more beautiful, loving place if we don't share that love and goodness we find within? And you know, we never know the legacy we leave. When the astronauts landed on the moon, Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin, they planted a sign on the moon along with the American flag. And that sign said, here men from the planet Earth first set foot upon the moon, July 1969. Only 7 years. Only 7 years after John Glenn had made that first space orbit. He said, we came in peace for all mankind. We came in peace for all mankind. It wasn't just enough to do it for themselves, for the United States. They said, we're here for the peace of all mankind. We need to be celebrating ourselves home so we can share the light and share the good. I'm going to be asking us now, and Kirk and Gretchen, if you'd come and help, if we can start a little journey to remembering who we are. I want you to just close your eyes for just a moment and remember that song, Celebrate Me Home. Give me a song, give me a remembrance, give me a sign, give me something to remember. I am part of something greater than this moment. I am part of something greater than me right here. I am part of a life that's ever expressing that there's infinite love, infinite goodness, infinite possibilities in every moment. To remember I am a being of light, no matter what I've done, the mistakes I've made. Life never criticizes. Love never criticizes. It's just about remembering the perfection that always resides within each and every one of us. As we celebrate ourselves home to a place of love and light, we take that with us wherever we go. So we can be the distributors of goodness. We can share peace and light and love when we remember who we are, the home from which we came. We are one with God, one with spirit, one with life, one with creativity, one with love. Love is the stuff of which we're made. It's time for us to shine that light, that love, that joy, that goodness, that peace, that possibility, and let life around us be uplifted and expanded as we truly do celebrate ourselves home.